Good evening, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Today we have Amila and Shairi. Amila Demel is a practicing architect and founding principal of ADM Architects. The practice is based in Colombo and she works on projects of a very broad range, from private residences to large-scale housing schemes and factories across Sri Lanka. Amila received her diploma in architecture from East London University and her BFA in architecture and design from the Massachusetts College of Arts in Boston. Miller worked at the architectural practice of Geoffrey Bawa from 91 to 95. Previously, she worked at C. Anjalendran's studio from 89 to 91. She was co-curator of the retrospective exhibition of Geoffrey Bawa's work, Genius of the Place, an Architect of Sri Lanka, held at the Duchess Architecture Museum in 2004. In 2014, ADM's design for the architect's own house won runners-up at the International Architectural Review House Awards. Amila has worked with the Lunuganga Trust on the restoration of the two of Geoffrey Bawa's projects, the reconstruction of the Ena de Silva house, now known as the project house number 5, and the project we're going to see today, which is the Druvi and Sharmini de Sarams house, completed in 2019. Joining her is Shairi de Silva. Shairi is a Sri Lankan architect whose practice focuses on curatorial and editorial projects. She's also a ceramicist. She joined the Lunuganga Trust as a curator of art and archival collections in 2018, where she manages the Geoffrey Bawa collections, including the programs around the exhibition, publication, and conservation. She curated the year-long Bawa 100 Centenary Celebrations program, which was launched in 2019. She has worked previously at the Yale Architecture Gallery, Yale University Art Gallery, and the Yale Center for British Art, where she was a Bartell Scholar. Harry was also co-editor of the Perspective 51 Medium, the Yale Architectural Journal, published in 2018 by the MIT Press. She is currently curating and editing forthcoming exhibition and accompanying anthology essays, both titled "It is Essential to Be There: Drawing from the Geoffrey Bawa Archive." I hope that's enough to introduce these two, and they'll take over from here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. That was mortifying to have it read out like that.
Really? Yeah.
But I think we should say that Amila was actually the person who has restored this house, and I think is the authority right now. But it's also a house that has an amazing art collection, so maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. Would you like to introduce the house?
Yes. So we are just going to walk in now off the main road, that is Ward Place, where we were stuck in traffic all this time. There's a little narrow lane that brings you down. This property belongs to a gentleman, Druvi de Saram. It used to be this entire property was their family home, and over the years it got divided into 3 plots, and Druvi inherited this last plot that we are going into. So we can perhaps turn the camera and show the way in. See that we are opening the gate. That is a gate that opens into the forecourt. Let's go. Walk.
You guys can hear us okay, right?
Yes, Shadi, you can continue.
So we walk down here, and this is the forecourt. And the building at the end is the garage. And so apparently when Druvi de Saram inherited this last plot, which had 2 little houses that Druvi's mother had built in the 70s as to supplement their income. They were like rental houses, little cottages. So when Druvi inherited the land, he came to Mr. Bawa and asked him to help him work it out. What Geoffrey did was he kept some of the old structures and connected it with roofs and created this very unique house that we are going to now see. But he retained some of the old structures like the garage at the end there, and he built around it. So here we are, let's come in. And
you mean to say the property was not a single property?
No, it was a bigger property that was subdivided. And it was subdivided, retaining some of the old structures on it. So Geoffrey did this house at the back first, and also the house that we walked past a little while ago, that was also done by Geoffrey, a renovation, but subsequently they have sold it. But that's also a fantastic renovation. So he kept the old structures. Let's go back and look back at this wonderful wall. See, when Colombo was not so busy in the 1980s, this house was built in 1986, but he created this big walled garden with a lot of security and bougainvillea, and so that now right at the end there you see another high rise, but earlier there were no other tall buildings around here, and it was really quite a beautiful garden. Yeah.
And you didn't feel that it was, secure in this
No,
way.
it didn't feel like security mesh, but right now, I think Mr. Bawa foresaw what was going to happen to Colombo. So you're in your little haven now when you're here. Yeah, so, yeah, let's go through. This is the main entrance.
Okay, I can then hold.
So this is the main entrance that this was a garden with lots of very old and large trees. It was a space that was there. The trees are from 100 years ago, before perhaps even Druvi's mother lived here. So you see this giant jack tree. There were about 2 other big trees here that we had to lose over the years. I have known this site since I was working with Mr. Bawa, because I was involved in the renovation of the house in the other block. Oh. This already existed. So this was one of my favorite houses, and I was very keen to be a part of the restoration. Yeah. So here is the main living room, which was the bamboo hats. I don't think they work, but these bamboo tats are, so you see it's a very open room, and it doesn't quite work in the rain, but it's a beautiful space. So if you look around,
Sorry, we had a very heavy rain, so I think some of the cushions and things have been taken from this room, but
and
covered up. So excuse us, but the monsoons are seemingly back.
Yeah. This old cupboard, the Dutch period cupboard, is a treasure, and that would have belonged to Druvi's family. Through our walk, you will notice a lot of beautiful pieces of furniture. Yeah. So this piece was given this little platform and made to show that. Yes. See, it was built up on a little stage to give it the right place in the room. Yeah. So,
and we'll see a few of these plinths, no?
Yeah.
In the
show the garden right now. So it's a garden space.
And then I guess an anecdote that we have about this space was that Philip Fowler, who was actually an Indian architect, maybe some of you know him, who worked with Mr. Bawa on this, at the time this house was built. He mentioned that Sharmini, Druvi's wife, when the project was coming, she was worried about one of the trees, and she said, "Oh, it brings all these animals, and we have small children." So, she had asked Philip, "Do you think we can cut this one tree?" But he knew that Mr. Bawa was such a fan of these, beautiful old trees, and they were so important to the project that would not fly. So he kind of warned Mr. Bawa, this is going to happen. She's not very happy about this tree. And apparently he had sort of started the meeting in response saying, "So I've really thought of the whole house around this one tree, and it all comes together because of this one tree." So there was no way that Sharmini could then say, "Well, can we take it out?"
Sorry, who was the architect you named?
Philip Fowler.
Okay.
I think based in Tamil Nadu now.
I'm not sure.
I think in the south. but he used to work, he came to work on the parliament originally and stayed on for several years. Yeah, I guess it was these existing parts of the site were very important.
So, and Druvi, Saram and Sharmini they were very close friends of Mr. Bawa's. So it was more than just a house project. You know, it was more like they had a friendship going through this whole exercise. And they both had a real, you see this pinky yellow wall. So this wall behind this wall is one of the little cottages that Druvi's mother had built as a rental property. So Mr. Bawa built this screen wall and painted it this Tuscany yellow orange kind of color. That was, they both, Mr. Bawa and Druvi and the family, they enjoyed going to Europe and especially to Italy. And on their travels, they really enjoyed the colors and the kind of scale of buildings there. And they had, I mean, for me, one of the greatest pleasures of renovating this house is that I had to spend hours talking with Druvi and Sharmini about what this house had been and what it meant to them. So it was a big journey for them also to build this house, you know. So they told me about these colors because by that time, this house had been lived in by Druvi and Sharmini now live in the UK, and the house had been used by tenants for many years, and not everybody likes a pink wall, so they had painted it white or gray or something. So we had to peel off many layers of paint to find the original color, and also from their memories and old photographs we restored the old colors. And Geoffrey Bawa is not known for color, but obviously, you know, where it was appropriate, he used it, and it really looks very special.
And it's not a single color, is
No, it's all mixed colors, yeah? And even the frame and all of that is all a series of, it's just he didn't want it to be a flat color. So I had that.
Maybe we could just show them the,
yeah,
because when you go closer to it, actually you see that it's comprised of lots of, I don't know if you guys can see that, but
see
there's
these
many
shades
layers.
of-
Lime plastered.
Sorry?
It's lime plastered.
Originally, it would have been lime plaster, but now no longer is it lime plaster.
We can just take a look at the courtyard also.
Yeah.
And the yellow was also there.
Yeah, yellow was also there.
You can just see there how it catches the shadows at this time of day, actually, through the jack tree and the, I don't know if you guys can see that.
Let's look back at the living room, and the garage is next to it on the right hand side, and above it is a bedroom for Druvi's younger daughter. That's a little, are we going up there?
We could,
yeah. Let me ask Priyanka to open.
Okay.
Priyanka,
Rohan.
So that little bedroom upstairs is a beautiful little room. We can go here and come back to it.
Yeah, we can
perhaps,
circle
yeah?
back to it, I
Yeah.
think.
So that was the garage building, and over on this side were the two little cottages. So what I meant by he connected them with flat roofs. If we move back here, see how he just linked them with flat roofs. Yeah. So
One.
yeah, that becomes a veranda. So when you walk through the house, you kind of engage with all the gardens around it. So it's like a house around a garden, or garden within a house, or I don't know.
And
something.
I guess everyone on the call has the plan as well, where you can see how many pockets of garden there are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
let's go.
and do you know these would have been these heights? No, so these the kind of mezzanine level and all
Yes,
that would
the
have been there.
mezzanine had to be there, because let's look in here. We go into the bedroom area. So the bedroom, this may have been an old wall, but he had to create this corridor for us to get down to one other daughter's room, and that's the wall with the windows. So there is no light in here. So that's why he created the windows above that gallery. So now you get lighting here into the master bedroom. So there is this gallery that runs across the two rooms.
Connecting.
And that's yes, and that's the dressing area upstairs. It's not the most practical house, but it is really quite amazing. Yeah? I'll just show. So all these spaces were used for storage and a very narrow staircase. It didn't originally have this rail, but it had to be added for when tenants moved in. You can also show the antique columns that we had restored. Yeah. You may have to climb up.
Yeah, I think we should show you the detail of these. Can you see that?
We had those restored. You can go up there and show the bedroom from up there. It's quite special.
Yeah. You can see some of Geoffrey Bawa's chairs in here. And so now we're on this mezzanine level, looking at the bedroom. And you can see also how there's a door here that will connect to Mandir, the elder daughter's room, which we'll go into, but it also allowed for that kind of connection. I think the whole house does have these kind of really interesting ways of being more or less private. So you can close up parts and open up parts. Should we talk about the this, for example?
Is that a textile by another Silva on the wall?
No, those are just, they are woven. They're woven. So you see, he did a lot of these old style doors, but they are in two parts, like a Dutch door with a little grill, and this house is also very secure and very safe. So there is a garden to the dining room back there. So if there are no visitors, you can just kind of keep your windows open and the grills closed, and there's a wonderful cross ventilation through the house.
There was also a window here, right?
There used to be a window here. Yes.
Yes.
We covered that just out of board. Here is the bathroom, which we renovated. Here, restoration. But what is special about this bathroom is that it's set off. This is the rear boundary wall, but you see a gap here that gives you ventilation. So he didn't build all the way to the boundary wall, but he set it back by a couple of feet and created this kind of corridor of ventilation behind the house.
It has these skylights of beautiful skylights.
Yeah. This was a built-in bed. So these are the windows back, looking back at the courtyard.
Which we saw from.
And this is the older daughter Mandira's room, which also has the gallery.
So you can see the door.
Yeah. She used to play up there, apparently. That was her play area. But Sharmini said that the daughters always slept in their room. They used to all get in there because this house is so spread apart. So, and this is really quite nice, this little bay window that allows Mandira to play and enjoy the garden.
I guess she can just climb out from here.
Yeah.
You can see, I'm not sure if I'm showing this, but it's basically the end of this bed that you have this lovely view.
And you can also see these windows above, the continuation of that wall.
And that really,
That's a fabulous window. They've covered it with.
we can maybe open it a
Let me
bit.
try.
Where did the door of the mezzanine lead to?
This door leads, it connects with the parents' room that we just saw from the other side. So if you remember that upper level. Amina is just showing us the window above the stairs, which takes this really interesting shape.
I'm not sure that I'll be able to open it all the way.
No, this is great. I think we can show the. You can also see in this room also there is, discrete storage tucked in under the stairs again. So it's very efficient in that way.
It's very efficient because all the cupboards and storage was all designed as a part of the architecture. All these cupboards that we have to leave open in this humid time, but see all these cupboards. Mandira was the little girls, and this was her dressing table. And with these tiny windows for cross ventilation again on the two sides.
And then the skylight as well here.
Yes, a little skylight. That's right. This is the bathroom, and came around the corner here. You see how it again has that 2-foot gap, which allows for the ventilation. Yeah? This bathroom actually was modified a lot, but we did it in the same Bawa flavor.
It was a lot smaller.
It was a lot smaller. So the bedrooms have a terracotta flooring, and the common areas have a cement tiled flooring. The ceilings are just bare, plain timber. He didn't really have much of a finish on it. We just only did it minimally so that it will just retain that rough color. The light fittings were mostly made locally because we didn't have so many imports.
Yeah.
So these are just twisted pieces of metal. Typical Bawa designs, just very, very simple.
And concealing the light, using reflecting light.
Reflecting, indirect light. Yeah? We are going back now to the dining room.
We should just show also that, along these corridors, we've hung some of the wonderful works that the Sarams have collected. So you can see Barbara Sansoni. We'll look at a few more as we go through, but there is a lot of art as well as antiques in this house. Should we go here? Or do you want to go back?
We can go in here. This is the dining room, and it's the favorite space in this house. One of the favorite spaces in this house, and it kind of links one of the cottages with the other. And Mr. Bawa created this roof over it with a black and plaster ceiling. And this large, beautiful large table, a single plank table that the Sarams had. Also, please notice the barn type doors and windows here. Apparently, there's another little story that Sharmini, Druvi's wife, was not so happy about having this glass front, and she had wanted it walled with proper windows. But Mr. Bawa had really blocked it up and shown her how it wouldn't look nice, and then convinced her that this was what it needed to be.
Because this can essentially open up as a corridor, no?
Yeah.
With just the columns, and then
Correct.
all these open up.
Yeah, they all open up, and then there is also the shallow pool next to it. So, but to open it, it would be really quite special. Open them flush,
And then you
and here's the pool. We have blocked them now for a while, so we didn't open quite so easily. But there's another little story about all the ironmongery and stuff that Geoffrey used. So he modified things really, and did a very beautiful job. All these would have been made for this task. Yeah. Just open, close it. It has a little hook. And then this is a lock that brings it here. This bolt was a discovery because apparently back then they didn't have flush bolts in Sri Lanka. So what he has done is he's inverted a regular bolt like this and modified it so that it would become a flush bolt. So it works beautifully. I like you to see this door also in the same spirit. This is these are the steel grille doors that would be open like this. But he's designed it in a way that when it closes, it's designed so that these ends it's just as a visual screen.
That wasn't audible. Can you repeat, Shairi, Amila?
So Amila was pointing out that where the door overlaps, as you can see.
Yeah.
Two angles.
Can you guys see those?
Yeah.
So it sort of fits into
One
these.
into another.
Oh, okay.
So you don't break the pattern, the rhythm of the grid.
So
Can you see that?
It doesn't become two members, but it goes into one.
It's the first time I'm seeing that. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's very beautiful because he would work with the steel workers on site and really enjoy doing these odd things, you know. So see, this has been set at an angle. They may have arrived with it not to working properly, and he's modified it. It's really
Can you see that angle?
quirky design details. So shall we look at Radhika's room before we go on to that
Yes.
side?
So we're going to see one more bedroom, the younger daughter's one.
This door goes into
The garage.
the garage.
You took the staircase from the living space?
Yes, that's the one.
Okay.
So we came up from here, and now we're in the younger daughter's room.
Looks back into that forecourt where you entered from.
And I guess what you can see is that even though it's a room that's set apart through, because this window and door completely opens, and then there's this one. So it is still connected to the main house.
Connected, yes.
I don't know if you guys can see, but behind this little side table, there's another, a lower half of a barn door. So this whole thing actually opens up.
It opens up and it just has a real rail, safety rail in front. Yeah. So this could be open.
But why there were window under the table?
Sorry?
Why there were window under the table?
The table came after the door.
It's something we put in now for safety, really, no?
Yeah, that is
Over
just-
there. But when the family was living here, basically, this could also completely open up.
It was just to leave things. Now it's not a bedroom. It's not a little girl's bedroom anymore. So now we have had to kind of dress it up to be.
All right.
I guess this is maybe as good a time as any to mention that how the trust sort of handles the maintenance, because I think we really all believe that these buildings need to be occupied, and especially in this climate, if they're not, opened up every day, it's very hard to preserve them, but also that they really come to life with people in it. And since we don't really have, like a national heritage foundation or that kind of, I guess, institutional support, the way the trust handles it is that we run them as places people can stay in, and you get this very specific or very unique experience. And it also helps us to then continue to preserve and maintain these structures. I'll just take one last look because that window is so special. And maybe then that. Yes, this is at the top of that stair looking into the living room. Maybe we could also just, I really love the way in this space the flow goes from the cement to the stone to the pebbles.
Gravel.
And it's these very kind of subtle changes that say, here's the room and then here's the outdoors. It's true.
There are all these like seats. These are all a part of the original structure. None of this has been changed. He used a lot of stone, dressed stone, recycled. I mean, he would have found these in old sites.
And we can also just this, I don't know if you can see this brass half cylinder that it's a so-called kind of gutter lamp because of the shape, but again, just a really simple fixture. It's just got,
Designed by Mr. Bawa.
it's just bulbs, 3 bulbs, very simple incandescent bulbs here, and this brass half, can you guys, and it just reflects the light onto the wall and back out. And you see them also in his home. There's 2 there, and then you see them at number 11 also. I mean, do you want?
Yeah, I want to talk to you about this. So there are a few details in this room. One is they required a water tank, and the water tank had to be built up here on these columns up here. So to kind of add interest and to have fun, he created a gallery or a slab. Yeah, and a staircase to get up to the water tank. And it was a favorite play area for the children. And they used to call it the Minstrels Gallery. That was his excuse. He said, "Oh, Druvi, you can have musicians play to you while you're eating." So that was what that is all about. Though they had never had musicians playing for them, but that was, they used to have a big joke about how Geoffrey used to persuade them to do all these fun things.
And
you
he
know.
did like a fancy water tower. No?
Yeah,
Even at Lunuganga, he
yeah.
has the, I don't, for those of you who might have visited, there's the,
He adds a story.
yeah, he makes it into a real event, I think.
This is also a very beautiful detail, this little half round bracket, because these were originally full length bamboo tacks that would be rolled up and left on these turned brackets. But it doesn't really rain here because the neighbors have built so high. So what we've done is we've just made the tacks short. So
And it's on a hinge, so it falls in.
yeah. So all these trees were there from before. This room had only these two light points, you know, that 4 light points. So, and then there were some lamps that they had added on these columns that Geoffrey didn't like, but they couldn't eat and they couldn't see anything. So then we changed the fittings so that they can be less obvious.
Okay.
So on the right is accessing to the kitchen and the service areas through there. And on the left is a link that he created to the rest, to the old part of the older house. Yeah? So shall we go up there? Okay. And you look right from there, you will see the service areas and the little courtyard. So that's the kitchen and pantry area beyond that. These are all parts of the old structure. Right? The dining room comes and connects with the old structure.
And then on our left is
The
again the
service
court.
entrance to the courtyard. And here, this is a part of a new structure, this area. And when you go through the...
Sorry. So that's where we just came out of.
Yeah,
And
yeah. So this is this section of the house has the music room, and we thought we'd use that as an excuse to display some of their posters from all their concerts. Both Druvi and his brother Rohan are very well-known musicians, and now their daughter Mandira is also equally well-known in England. So they play a lot, and some of these are their old posters. Now, when we walk through these arches, we go into the oldest part of Druvi's mother's house. So that would have been connected to the house on the other property, which was subdivided. So then Mr. Bawa renovated this section. Let's walk through and we will come back.
and if you're following it on the plan, you would have the music room on the left.
Yes.
And this is the corridor between
Through
the courtyards, and then you can see the music room. Yeah, we'll end up there, I guess. But also really lovely kind of a little buffer between the service area and this corridor, which gives privacy, I get, in a really lovely way.
Shall we go upstairs?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something we just added recently.
Oh, really? This
Yeah.
courtyard wasn't there?
Yeah, it was still connected to the back, the part of the house the other house, because they all belong to Druvi. So
Okay.
they were connected. So when we created this new, my task was to sever the two houses, and then we did this, created it.
Also a very lovely courtyard.
And then this section was developed as a flat for them. It has the quality of being a self-contained unit.
It has its
separate
own
access.
door. You can see the lovely kind of green door at the end.
That's the entrance from near the gate. So this is the original stair. This would have been a part of the old family home.
You can see this kind of strange little art from the previous
But
house.
this is that would have been the original structure, Shari. It would have been always like.
You don't think this stair got added in?
No,
No,
this was an original tattoo. Yeah.
that's really wild.
Then
You can see
built
that.
it like that, and then
Something
I may
changed.
have
No?
been added very, very
Very,
long ago, but this is a two-storied structure.
Structure. But I wonder if it was connecting somewhere else.
Yeah, it
And then
was,
this,
yeah, correct.
You can see how generous even the stair is. There's the kind of a whole sofa on the landing.
This is beautiful space. Before we had to block it, but it had windows on all sides. It was like a big veranda, balcony.
Oh, wow.
Then Mr. Bawa introduced these windows.
These are okay.
It was a balcony. So
All right. Okay.
and, you see the old roofs of the service area. We retained the roofs. And the houses next door have now gone way higher than us. They were not so tall before.
So when this house was built, you would have seen out
Yeah,
into.
they were single-story houses.
Now you can see Colombo has.
This is the big bedroom. The bedroom ended here, but Geoffrey added this section. There's a little balcony upstairs and the extension in the music room downstairs. And now again we reconnect to the courtyard.
You can see the screens that we showed right at the beginning of the tour, which don't feel at all like barricades or anything. And that's the room that the bedroom we last went to.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys can see it on the phone, but you can see that there are these really generous ceilings. This space is a totally different sort of proportion, I guess.
Yes, this is an old colonial home, yeah?
Yeah, and you can see the doors are.
The hip roof.
This is a part of a hip roof.
It's a hip roof. It became a hip roof actually when we modified it.
We cut it.
When I had to cut it.
But it probably was always a hip roof of one sort or the other.
Yeah. Yes, because there was a balcony around here.
You can see.
We just had to modify and chop it closer. But it's beautiful, the cross ventilation. Even right now, when you open all the windows, it's just so
We're
breezy.
getting a very lovely breeze here. This is still a totally self-sufficient
It
kind
can,
of a
yeah,
the
it is
kitchenette.
designed as a self-contained flat. If they came here to stay, this would be where they would stay. So it has a bigger bathroom with a washing machine and a cool point and pantry. But these were not a part of the original. These were.
But so it was the veranda continuing.
No, it was a bathroom.
Oh, it was a bathroom.
The bathroom came up to here, but
Okay.
I just moved it back there just to
Okay,
because the
okay.
bathroom was anyway quite large.
Right, okay.
So we were able to manage. This was completely redone.
This is my dream apartment.
Mine too.
So we can head down.
Yeah.
If you guys can see these lovely chairs, I mean, I mentioned that there are these beautiful pieces. You can see the mirror there. No, these are Druvi's. We didn't bring only those 5 modern chairs. So we're going to go back down those stairs. Back through the corridor we just came into.
This is the music room, the air-conditioned living room. And this is a fabulous collection of paintings that belong to Druvi and Sharmini. Mezzanine. This is Sharmini, you can explain later. Justin.
The musician. And just since I know a lot of our audiences joining from India, so these in I guess a key kind of movement in Sri Lanka's modern art. In Sri Lanka's modern art was this group called the 43 groups, so called because they became a group in 1943. And so Justin was one of them. Ivan Piris, who you see here, and whom Geoffrey Bawa, he really loved his work and had a lot, but this is quite unusual because of the, you can see that it's quite, he's using saturated colors. Later on, he uses much more kind of neutral palettes. This is a piece by Richard Gabriel, who's also a member of the 43 group. That's actually a grand uncle.
They don't know, they call him the ancestor, but nobody knows.
Exactly. But he bears a very close resemblance to the. So it's quite interesting because the figures that you're seeing here, as well as in the George Keats here, and these are more Justin the Niagaras, and Justin was an uncle of Druvi, so it was also a very kind of multi-talented art family. And I think that the art that was made, this idea of looking at Sri Lanka, what Sri Lanka was and what it was before independence, what it became after, those were all very important in then how the architecture of the country evolved, I would say. So they are actually quite linked in a way to the kind of structures we are in. We are in this room that is half from a colonial period and half from the 80s. And it's quite seamless, actually.
He connected it with this flat roof, which was the balcony above, the balcony above the old room. Yeah,
so that
one. And then he lined the walls with bookshelves so that the sound in the room would be acceptable for the music
And it is very good for
It's-
music.
for sound. Yeah.
Prasid's asked if there's any lucky Sinanaikas. So we actually saw one. I don't know if you saw that kind of blue and yellow lion in the dining room, but that was actually that wasn't original. And
No.
this piece in the far
No,
right,
in the middle. In the
This
middle,
one?
This one.
this
That's-
one was in. Oh,
That was the piece that really occupied that wall between the brass lamps in the dining room, and it had such presence.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you can feel her absence, I think.
Yeah.
So, but now that piece that you may have seen is a Lakusainak from Lunuganga. The Sarams also had a few, and I think we passed them walking. There's one in the music room. But this is, I mean, it's interesting because I think it's a very personally it's a collection that came through family. And,
Yeah, and in fact, I mean, talking about a collection, Druvi's mother was also quite an artist. I mean, she's a dancer. So she had this fantastic collection of old masks. This is what Druvi has, but the original set is at the V&A. So
these are
all old Sri Lankan masks.
And they're sort of used in traditions of warding off evil and warding off disease.
Yeah.
There's a whole sort of history of this kind of mask. Somebody asked if you can visit this house. Absolutely, you can. So you have to contact. If you go to the Geoffrey Bawa Trust website, which is geoffreybawa.com, I think there's a section called Visit, and you can arrange it. And we are doing tours, I believe. You can also stay in the house, just in case you
Coming to Colombo.
Yeah.
So this space is very beautiful, where we sit often. I mean,
Should we
this
put
is-
these
This
lights?
place, this space is very comfortable space when we.
You can see more of those gutter lamps. So it's the second kind of living room space also. There's the outdoor one, which we first came through. I guess in many ways, most of the rooms connect to this
Courtyard.
sort of, yeah.
Yeah, the central courtyard is a focal point, and then the back garden. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think this is the
I think that's
front of the house. Yes.
Oh, can you show the washrooms near the dining area, which are between the two courtyards?
Okay, there is a washroom like a powder room outside the music room. It's a very tiny washroom.
So that's Druvi, and that's his brother. This is a Lucky Senaica that was in Druvi's collection. This is anything else? Anything else, Prasid?
No, I guess like if someone else wants to ask to revisit someplace, I guess this is the best time to ask.
Yes, I know that there were a few questions that popped up during the. Let me just see if there's anything we missed. Yeah, I think we've covered all the questions, but we're very happy to.
I had a question.
Yeah.
What was the floor of the main courtyard made of? It was a porous floor.
The main courtyard, the driveway.
Oh,
Yeah, the one that had like the
Huh?
yeah, this one.
The grass. This is the interlocking block for grass, for turf.
I guess originally it was simply turf.
It was gravel.
It was
And-
gravel.
Yeah, it was gravel, and it was not it was impossible to maintain any turf here because of the driveway. So this has not done very well recently, but
It's
you
also
know,
been a very dry
yeah,
few months.
period.
Yeah.
But, and also it got so much shade, so
Mm.
it doesn't quite do what we want it to do.
Yeah, that's true.
But this was introduced.
Yeah.
All right.
Any other? Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes.
We have to keep this pond covered because there is a visiting kingfisher who comes and takes all the fish.
Oh, is that?
So that's why it's covered. So
Oh,
we have to now design something.
kingfisher proof it.
Yeah.
What material has been used for the ceiling of the main living room, the double height living room?
The ceiling of the main living room is just a boarded timber planks. It's a
Okay.
local timber plank. The ceiling of the dining room is a lath plaster made to look like a timber frame. It's a timber frame with lath plaster infill.
Okay.
So we didn't want to break it through for lighting or anything.
When you say traditional manner, like
With chicken mesh and
oh,
it's
okay,
just,
okay, like at number 11.
it's at number 11, and Ina's house also has that.
Oh, many of the columns are painted black. They're made of timber, I'm assuming. Is there some reason, or is it just an aesthetic decision?
Column painted black just for the lab, so that they disappear.
The that mezzanine level, if you remember, in the bedrooms,
The
I think-
decorative.
yeah, those slender ones. Those are the only timber columns.
Those were antique actually.
Yeah, and then I guess they are structured. Yeah.
Not really. They are just decorative and they hold the handrail. They are not structured.
They're not structured.
They are on top of the structure. They are on top of the balcony.
So that's a cantilevering balcony.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
it's supported on the
On
walls below.
Okay. This is why you're here.
No, I mean a lot of the little details in this house. I think Mr. Bawa really like. Even if you look at that door, right? It's a single plank door, 2 shutters that are made of into this little alcove, and this is. I mean, we didn't have recess lights back then, so we did like a homemade recess. In the concrete, there's a hole and there's a little piece of glass with a light inside. There's also a visiting squirrel who comes and lives in this sometimes. But we tried to retain all these because, in the early 80s, we didn't have all this in Sri Lanka. This is a beautiful single plank timber door with a hinge. Hinges.
And the way it sits, I mean, with this little, yeah, it's really nicely framed actually.
Sairi, I guess one of us is requesting to take us to the gallery or the minstrel again.
The Minstrel Gallery. Yes, we
Yeah.
can go there.
In the meantime, I had a question. So, as Amila had worked with Mr. Bawa himself, are there any peculiar design process or like site visits he used to do for specific things, or is there anything like that which he remembers?
Well, I was worked with him for about 5 years. And during those 5 years, Kandalama was the biggest project that I worked on from beginning to end. So there were really some very special site visits when we had to sort certain things out. And I think that was my funnest experience in working.
Also, one question about his drawings. I mean, how much time would he spend on making one plan or a section? Because they look intricately detailed and manually done. So was it he himself engaging into that, or he put interns onto work?
A lot of the concept and the detailing was done by him. We used to he used to have a yellow pencil that he would use, and he would scribble with his wobbly hand, but every line, I mean, he just made sure we understood what he meant. And even if he wanted, I mean, little details like this, even the plaster details, these little things were often he would like to see that detail. So even while he's sketching, he would tell you that it needs to be, made in a manner that they are the coping lines, and he would see it when he's designing the main structure. He would talk about detail very often, so it had to get worked into the structure so that it then is developed right from the beginning.
Guys, I just want to warn you that I have 11% battery. So we probably have room for about 2 more questions, I think, before my phone dies on us. Someone asked to be back at the Minstrel Gallery. Was there anything particular they want to see? And that's Prasit, I think you asked about the Lucky. So this is the new
Replacement.
yeah, sort of temporarily here.
See, as the light fades, the house takes on a new feel.
Probably in another 30 minutes, it starts looking like a lantern.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that one of the areas acts as a self-sustaining apartment. So I was just wondering that what is the need of building a separate self-sustaining apartment in a house itself?
Well, it was, as I said, Druvi and Sharmini lived in the UK. A few years after they built this apart house, they moved to the UK. So they would rent the house but have that flat. To whenever they came and visited, they would stay in that flat.
I suppose it could have been a guest room when they lived in the house.
And I think it got separated from the main house over years. It didn't happen. So a lot of things keep developing as it's like a family home.
Which I guess, and that happens in many houses in Colombo.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Will you please take us to the living area beside the garage? Yes. So the taps have been put back down, but I think it's probably in anticipation of the rain. It's very rarely that we have this down, so usually this is all open.
I'm just wondering that they have it almost open rooms. So isn't mosquitoes and flies become an issue sometimes?
There are mosquitoes at that time, and that's a bit of an issue.
I guess Amila is quite far. We are not able to hear.
Sorry, Prasid?
Amila is quite far. We weren't able to hear her.
There are mosquitoes. Yes, Colombo has a lot of mosquitoes. So I think that's a bit of a drawback when you live in a big house with a garden like this, and then you have trees.
It probably wasn't as bad back then.
That's bad back then. No. But I mean, there's lots of mosquito repellent around. I mean, it's that or meshing everything in, and
I think also probably most people in Sri Lanka are now finding ways to live with mosquitoes and using other not architecturally keeping them out, I guess.
I had a question. So like nowadays, there's a lot of question and debate about restoration, demolition, retention, about especially great projects like this. So how did you feel when you had to take on this project? for a restoration?
Uh,
Like, as in, did you have pressure or?
Well, I actually did it for the clients, for Druvi and Sharmini. They were away, and I knew the house well, and they needed to sell the house in the front. So I I worked out a way in which we could partition the two because they had been worked in as one. It kind of meshed. One, the mother lived in one part, then Druvi lived, then Druvi renovated that house. You know, it all happened over a series of a period of about 10-15 years with Mr. Bawa's office. So when they wanted to sell a part of one of the houses, I kind of persuaded them to sell the front house, which is also a very special house, but I felt this one was just magical and they shouldn't sell this one. And this is the bigger of the two. So once they sold that, they had a little money to spend on this, and we kind of persuaded the trust to take it on because it is not the kind of house that anybody can live in because it has lots of drawbacks. The bedrooms are far apart. They are not, it's not a practical home. So it can, I mean, so now it has been renovated and restored to its original look and feel as close as possible. And I think the trust, Druvi was a very dear friend of Mr. Bawa's. And I think the trust took it on as a part of, I mean, it's a, there's a lot of Mr. Bawa in this house. And I think it's a wonderful property to add to their portfolio of properties. So I think it just seemed like a natural thing, and I just enjoyed doing it because it was, I hadn't seen the house, or maybe I saw it very early in my architecture when I was an undergraduate. I would have seen it with this orange wall, but since then a lot had changed. So to bring it back, I mean, all the windows are different pale shades of gray. They're not white. So there are different shades of color that Mr. Bawa had specially mixed. They didn't come off a color card. So we had to kind of really look for the original colors under the layers of paint and restore it. And that was a lot of fun.
We should also add, with my 7% of battery left, that Amila also worked on the Ina de Silva house, which was physically moved from Colombo to Lunuganga. So I don't know if you want to say something about that because it's another.
That's another house. Yeah, this is a very, this is one of my favorite Colombo houses because when you come here, you forget where you are.
And considering how, I mean, we were all stuck in this crazy traffic jam, considering how loud it is outside, it's so peaceful inside here.
I think it.
Yeah, I think it's a good note to end on, Prasid.
Yeah, I guess if anybody has any requests or any questions, or else we can have the concluding remarks, I guess. Yeah, Navya, I guess you can take it now.
Yeah, so on behalf of our club, I would really like to thank Amila and Shairi for this really informative live walkthrough. I'm sure it was a great experience for all of us. We are really grateful for your time and effort. We would also like to thank the Geoffrey Bawa Trust for their support and cooperation in making this a successful event. We would also like to thank the faculties for taking out their precious time to attend today's session. Thank you everybody for joining. Hope to see you soon for more such interesting events.
Thank you, guys.
Just to add on, I guess even I would like to thank Tanvi who got me in touch with Shairi. So I guess it was only then this event was possible. So I don't know if she's here or not, but yeah, I can thank her.
We hope to see you all in person in Sri Lanka soon.
Sure. Taking up
Thank you so
another
much.
house next, maybe.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Shairi, I guess you are recording the meeting, so if you can save that and share it over.
Yes, and I think I put it to record on the cloud and I have no idea where the cloud is anymore. But I will look for it and get it to you.
Yeah, if you can figure it out, just share it with us because I tried recording, but it was showing that you were recording. So at the same time, I could not record.
Yeah, it is showing me that it's recording and I don't know where, but I can definitely find that, I think.
Yeah. Please do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you so much. It's a lovely house to visit for sure.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Shairi. Bye, Amila.
Bye.
Bye.